This video is going to be about how I went from this to this in 72 hours for the Indie Tales Game Jam. The theme for the Indie Tales Game Jam was one room. Now, I'll skip my idea generation process, but I settled on the idea that I wanted to deliver a very short experience following an aged hero of some kind about to face his final room of adversaries. I also knew I wanted to make my first ever action game, and I'm what you might call a system-based developer, meaning I tend to think of new games in terms of a cool system I want to try to make, and I often struggle to build games around that idea. This time my idea was a parry system that felt good to use, was punishing if you missed, and heavily rewarded the player if they landed it, and the idea of parrying attacks led me to my theme. Our protagonist is an aged and battle-worn samurai on a quest to eradicate a hive of demons that has taken his family from him. We open to see him standing with a crowd of demons behind him, frozen in time. Suddenly, he resheaths his sword. With a click, all the enemies explode in showers of blood. His attacks were so fast and precise, they didn't even know they were dead. That mental image was all I needed to get started on my art, and I knew I wouldn't have much time to animate anything, so I settled on trying to keep the number of frames for every character as low as possible, which immediately failed. What I did manage was to establish a very efficient art style around smears, and it worked well with the environmental art I already knew was in the pipeline from my teammate. So that was one victory in the bag for me very early on. The character was done, I was ready to go, and I decided the first thing I would do after making the combo system was to make the cutscene that you just saw, that intro scene on Unity's timeline, and oh boy, I have some feedback. I'll start by saying the pause function for timelines is misleading. If you want to do what you probably think pausing is, this is the line of code you want, both for pausing and unpausing. Second, the behavior objects default to after the timeline releases its all-powerful grip on them is kinda hard to manage, and I suggest you include these in your plans for your animator trees from the start. That said, how cool was the result? Now, back to the combo system. So the first thing I had to do before even working on the combo system was import my target dummy. He's been a part of every single game I've made with combat in it. He always gets beaten up, and he's been a loyal friend the whole way through. The second step was setting my hitboxes to activate during active frames on the animations, and this process worked first try. How does it work? It's based on this video. I will put the link in the description, and the only real things that I've updated or changed was my combo management script knows what is next in the combination based on the name of the original animation. So it will always look for the word attack and append a number to the end of that, and so far the only major hiccup I've had in any way was scripting the pause and unpause for the timeline. Everything else has been really quick, so I thought now would be the perfect time to jump in and get that parry working. Now, parry mechanics in games seem extremely simple. If I press a button during certain frames of an enemy's attack, it should deflect the attack and give me some benefit, some time to respond. My implementation worked fine at first, but I kept finding these weird edge cases where the damage would go through the parry a frame earlier than the parry activated. To remedy this, the parry animation forces the character to be invincible for the duration, so even if you're off by a few frames, you still don't get hit. So now we have a parry, we have combat, we've added our blood effects and all the goodies. It was time for sound. Every sound in this game is made either with a spoon or my mouth. That's all. I made sounds into my microphone until I found one that fit what I wanted, messed with it so that it doesn't sound like a mouth noise, and I was finito. I based the hit sound on old Kurosawa era sword slashing sounds, and I actually made that sound by running a spoon handle down a bedsheet. I don't know why I knew that would work, but I did, and it did. So now, all the major features are ready to go. I pressed play, and the first time I parried an enemy and heard the sound, the blood spray having the sound, just all of it coming together, I knew I'd made something that was at least worth playing. But I still had other things I wanted to add. I still needed to add some enemy variation, but with only a few hours left in the jam, I didn't want to risk going with a completely new enemy and just never finishing it. So I made variations in size and damage and attack range and move speed and hoped it would be enough to satisfy in a short experience. The game's only about 3 minutes long in total, so I thought that would be okay. Ultimately, my biggest regret about the project is not having more variety in attack animations and enemy types, but maybe in a future update. Enemy spawns in this game are random. You get 20 enemies between the bigs, the smalls, and the standards, and they all have a slight variation in how they engage you. The big guys will hit you from further away, the small guys move faster, etc. The other random element I added late is the health. Enemies have no health bar and they have a random amount of health. This was intentional. I designed it to force the player to use the parry. The big guys can have between 2 and 10 HP, and if you are unlucky, you're not going to just beast through them and ignore the mechanics of the game. You do have to at least try to time the parry. So, we're at the end of the journey of this video pretty much. Submission time came and I was a little early. I found 2 massive game-breaking bugs and then I was pretty much exactly on time. The feedback and responses for Moichido have been overwhelming, heartwarming, and sincerely touching. As a developer, this is the dream. I made a lot of concessions at the end of the project on difficulty and design because I want to make games people can enjoy and share an experience around, and I think this is the first time in 50 game projects and 2 years of game development I made something that's received such unanimous positivity from a community. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Adam, for the coverage of the people who were streaming your game jam and for organizing it all together. Thank you to the Indie Tales community for just being so fantastic, and thank all of you who are here now just for being part of the most positive game development experience in my journey so far. I'll leave a full playthrough of the game here after I finish talking. If you can't play it, you can at least see what it looks like. Take care, and thank you again for watching. If you like my game or this video, please consider leaving it a like and following me on Twitter, YouTube, or my Twitch. The links are in the description. Thank you.